ESPN claims the Bengals are the biggest loser of the early free agent period. And so far, you outside of the fact we didn't re-sign Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson, which honestly is the biggest thing here. Outside of that fact, I'm not really upset with our free agency so far. We got two arguably amazing defensive tackles, one in the run stuffing department, one in, obviously BJ Hill's amazing. We love BJ Hill. Mike Gesicki is back. We got Samaje Perine yet again. Got back a lot of guys we needed to re-sign, so I'm pretty happy about that. How I look at it is like this free agent class in general isn't the greatest. So, we were not going to come away from this free agent class and looking like the best thing ever. I think if you look at most of this free agent class, I don't think any team has come away and looked absolutely amazing. Okay, I don't think so. But at the same time, let's hear them out. Needing to squeeze every dollar out of their budget, the Bengals somehow decided to bring back Mike Gesicki back on a 3-year, $25.5 million contract, paying him $12 million in 2025 in the process. Gesicki hasn't been that caliber of player that vast majority of his career as something much closer to a wide receiver than a tight end. He plays a position that is well stocked in free agency with veteran options. The Bengals are already attempting to re-sign Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, which would keep Gesicki in his role as a team's third option in the passing game. Okay, crapping on us for signing Mike Gesicki is kind of wild. That's kind of a wild take, because that's actually probably the best thing we did, and I don't think anyone's going to argue that signing Mike Gesicki was a bad idea. Because at the end of the day, he can easily put up 600 yards. He did last year. And he could probably put up way more than that this year if we utilize him as a slot receiver. So, that's a wild take. Especially because Zach Taylor utilizes two tight ends pretty much every single freaking play. So, okay. That's a wild take. Bringing back BJ Hill in a 3-year, $33 million deal to start a defense tackle is one thing, given the Cincinnati doesn't have much on the defensive line, especially if it plans on trading Trey Hendrickson. I think it's very obviously we're not going to trade Trey Hendrickson at this point, and that was all just bluff because there hasn't been any update of us really shopping him. So, and at this point, if a team wanted him, they would have went and got him, I feel like. Using the money it has budgeted outside of its big 3 or 4 to shore up the weak spots on its roster makes sense. Retaining a third receiver does not. Adding running back Samaje Perine on a 1-year deal for $3.6 million is another example where the Bengals need to trust their ability to find cheaper solutions so they can divert their resources to irreplaceable stars. We gave him a $1.8 million. $1.8 million for a running back is, I guess you could say you could find cheaper solutions, but for how good he is as a pass blocker, I don't really feel like that's a bad idea. And you got someone who's played in Zach Taylor's offense before. Okay, I don't really think the Samaje Perine, for how little we paid for him, I don't think that's a bad idea. I think that was actually a pretty good signing, to be honest. Retaining a third receiver does not. Who's the third receiver we let go? We didn't let go of any receiver. Unless they're saying Tyler Boyd, but that was a year ago, and it's not like Tyler Boyd's really that great, let's be honest. I don't know. I think they're just nitpicking the nitpick at this point. I don't really think what they did so far, I don't think what we did so far was a bad thing. I think what we did is, and if you want to get on the Bengals, we can get on them for is not doing enough. You could say they should be doing more, right? And I think you could get on them for that. But I think so far what they did in free agency isn't bad. I think what they did is just kind of like housekeeping, but also adding a little bit extra pieces. Really, the only way you could say that we're quote unquote losers of free agency is, at the end of the day, is if we don't go ahead and bring back T. Higgins and Jamar Chase this free agency. You know, like, at the end of the day, those are the only ways you could call it losers. Trey Hendrickson, arguably, I get it. You know, at the end of the day, I want him back on a long-term deal, but 30 plus million a year is just not reasonable for Trey Hendrickson given our salary cap situation. So that one's out the window completely, right? And as long as he'll play for a 1-year contract, whatever, you know, we'll get him, you know, he'll come back for next year, and it is what it is. But outside of that, like the T situation, Jamar situation, yeah, that's the only way I could see us being quote unquote losers is not getting those contracts done. But it's really not even like, we're not losers because of not getting those contracts done. We're losers that we didn't sign those contracts last year. So like at this moment in time this year, I mean, I'm sure Jamar is waiting. I'm sure Jamar Chase, in all honesty, doesn't want to get signed until, you know, all these other players get signed and he can become the, you know, highest paid non-quarterback. So I'm sure that situation is happening. But yeah, no, I mean, again, like I said, I just don't really see the point of us being losers. Now, if we, in theory, do not sign any offensive guards, then yeah, I would say that's definitely going to be a huge issue. But I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of torn between this because it's like, I understand the perspective of, well, we should have did more. We should have like, we should have negotiated better. Or this, but at the end of the day, it's like, our front office is very incompetent. Like, if you realize how they work and how they operate, they're not the greatest. They definitely struggle greatly when it comes to these things, but all right, it is what it is. You know, we just gotta keep rocking and rolling. I don't know. BJ Hill was great. That's a great contract too. 3 years, $11 million per year. I was actually pretty damn happy with that deal. I don't think that deal was bad at all. But we still have a lot we have to work on. I'll say it like that. We still have a lot we have to work on and fix up before this season kicks off. But guess what? We have the draft, okay? We have the draft. And if you remember last year in free agency, the Bengals really weren't that active early on in free agency. They got active at the very end of free agency, like wave 4 of free agency. Because a lot of people don't realize, but after June 1st, a lot more players are going to get cut. And a lot more players join free agency, especially after the draft. Once the draft kicks off and that's done with, May, June, and July, people are cutting people. And there's players that pop up in free agency. So, plus, as of today at 4 p.m., everyone has to get above 0 on their salary cap. There's going to be people who get cut too. So, it's all about the waiting game. That's what it comes down to.